way to the other hall. Sisters can turn on the live stream and finish whatever we're eating and clean up, inshallah. We're gonna have a.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking to me.
I don't know. We might do it tomorrow after Fajr if you have to do it. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين. صدق الله العظيم. In the Quran, Allah Ta'ala tells us in two different areas. Allah Ta'ala mentions to us Wudhu, and Allah spells it out for us. Allah spells it out for us very clearly so that we can understand. And it's one of the rare parts of our religion which Allah mentions clearly in the Quran. The four fards, the four things which are definitely needed in wudu, they are mentioned in the Quran. In the hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and this is the first hadith of Tirmidhi, so you can understand the importance of the hadith. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Miftahul Jannati as-salah. The key to Jannah is prayer, salah. Wa miftahu as-salah at-tuhur. And the key to salah is wudu. So a person cannot enter Jannah without salah, and a person cannot perform salah without wudu. So basically, in essence, on a secondary level, the key to Jannah will never be claimed if a person doesn't know how to clean themselves and perform wudu. And cleaning themselves is a whole different issue. We're just going to focus on wudu today, inshallah. How to perform wudu, our common mistakes, and then we're going to maybe talk about some things that break wudu, and then we're going to finish, inshallah. First and foremost, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in a hadith, I mentioned the virtue earlier, that that a believer, his jewelry, his adornment on the day of judgment will reach where his wudu reaches. When Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh heard this hadith, he would actually wash his hands all the way up to his elbows, not elbows, shoulder, because he wanted his jewelry and his adornment to reach his shoulder, even though it's not the sunnah. Rasulullah saw this and he accepted it. He said, you're doing it for the right intention. Imagine, subhanallah, that he would actually wash himself all the way to his shoulders. And some pious predecessors would wash their feet all the way up to their knees. Why? Because that's just, they understand that that part is going to shine on the day of judgment, and that part is going to be adorned, and that's how much adornment we're going to get on the day of judgment. So wudu is not something for us to take lightly. On the other hand, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed by a grave, and he said, this person is being punished because he's not urinating properly, he's not making his wudu properly. So we have to make sure that we are performing our wudu properly. We have some common mistakes. A lot of us, the last time, if I ask you when's the last time you learned wudu, the last time you learned wudu is the first time you learned wudu. If you understand what that sentence means, the last time you learned wudu is the first time you learned wudu. Why? Because we learned it once when we were young, we've never gone back to it. That's all we think, that's wudu, and now I've never asked anyone to correct me. I've never thought about, am I doing it right? Let me look at the evidence. Is nothing. The first time we learned it from the Imam Sahib or whoever, that's now the last time we've actually ever gone back. And there's certain things we're doing that, meaning the last time we learned it is the first time we learned it, and we're doing generations of mistakes. So we have to make sure we're correcting and we're seeking knowledge for these things. So wudu, inshallah, we'll start with the fara'ith. And I'm going to practically demonstrate a few things now, inshallah. The fara'ith of wudu are four, meaning these four things we have to do, according to the Hanafis. Oh, so now we have to speak about difference of opinions. The Hanafis say the fara'ith, the fard, is only four things, because they mention in the Quran, everything else is sunnah. So if we leave it out, we shouldn't make a habit of leaving it out, basically. If you leave it out, the wudu is still done. The other scholars, and everyone has their own hadith and evidences, I don't want to go into that. They'll add a certain things. So Imam Ahmad, Imam Malik, etc., they add something called tartib. Tartib meaning it has to be one after the other. It has to be in order. So I can't start my wudu and I wash my face, and then I wash my hair, and then I think, oh, I forgot my arms, and I come back and wash my arms. So according to Imam Malik and the other scholars, tartib and the order is important. And this is important for us as well. Sometimes you're making wudu and your mind is somewhere else, and you finish everything, oh, I forgot my arms. And you go back and do your arms. So that, according to all scholars, is not correct. So if you want the safest opinion, you have to do a wudu that is accepted by all the scholars. So we do the whole wudu again. And they have a good hadith. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one companion came and he performed wudu and he had a portion of his foot which looked dry. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't say to him, wash that. He said, go repeat your wudu. So it's a wudu, it's a hadith which is actually, it makes sense to us and we understand it. That's why even a lot of the scholars who don't take this, who are not from the madhab that follow the opinion, they actually say no. Based on this hadith, we understand that no, tartib and routine is very important. So that's the first one. Second one, another fard is mawalat. Mawalat means one action has to happen straight after the other. Meaning you can't wash one body part and before you start doing the next one, this one gone dry. So you can't delay your wudu so much. You can't have such a gap in your wudu. And again, there's evidences to go back and forth. And the last thing, there's two more which some scholars say as fard and some don't. One is to say Bismillah beforehand. And this is very important. And the hadith of Rasulullah mentions it. So some scholars say yes and some say no. And some scholars say, even if you're in the bathroom, a lot of us make wudu in the bathroom at home. They say as long as there's no clear impurity in the toilet, it's not flushed or something on the floor, as long as there's no clear impurity and where you're making wudu is separate from the toilet itself, you can say Bismillah. And that's an opinion which makes sense as well. Because the bathroom itself, the whole thing is not impure. And the bathrooms now are not similar to the cubicles of the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where in them cubicles you can't say anything bad. You can't say anything good, or if you understand. Like where we have in certain areas where you just have the urinal and you have the sink. But a bathroom is different. So they say as long as there's no direct impurity, then we can still say Bismillah before the wudu. So Bismillah is another fard, according to some scholars. And the last one is niyyah, intention. Intention, we have to have intention. I'm making wudu for salah. Some scholars say if you say I'm just making wudu to pray Quran, you can't even pray salah with that. You can't perform salah with that wudu. Some say if you just took a shower, and you didn't have the intention of wudu, you actually, if your intention wasn't there at that time, then you can't pray salah. So again, this is another thing. Imam Shafi accepts to have this opinion, and they say innamal a'malu binniyat, actions are based on intention, so we have to have intention. So anyway, that's just the breakdown of the fard, which some scholars say is part of the fard, and some don't. And the four that everyone agrees upon is the four in the verse of the Quran. Allah Ta'ala says in two times, Surah Nisa, Surah Ma'idah, O you who believe, do not go close to salah until you wash four things. And the four things are face, arms, head, and feet. And I'm just going to mention in detail each one. Face. So the face starts from where our hairline basically starts, down to our chin, or underneath the chin. So underneath the chin, hairline, underneath the chin, everything in between, and one earlobe to the other earlobe. When we say everything in between, the scholars say you have to be careful about this area and these two areas here, between the bone of the nose, the bridge of the nose, and the eyes. And they say to really do this part is not necessary. A person can do it. Some say it's extra, so we don't have to do it, like to close your eyes and completely do it. They say because al-wajh ma yuwajihuk. Face is just whatever, if I look at someone, what I see. So they say you don't see somebody's eyes closed. So that's not part of wudu. That's what one reasoning is. So you have to make sure we do the entire wudu. In this, there's a few small points, detail. First is if a person has a beard, what's the ruling? First of all, if a person has a small beard, what does a small beard stand for, or a light beard? That means a beard where you can still see the skin. So if it's a light beard where you can still see the skin, then that person has to wash the entire beard. So if a person has a beard where you can see the skin underneath it, then that person has to wash a beard. Wash the whole beard. It's part of the face basically. If a person has a beard which is thick, so it's not, you can't see the skin underneath, then you just have to basically do masa. You just have to go over it with a wet hand and that's enough. So it's not as strict. If a person has hair growing down, so istirsal, meaning it's hanging off, so a lengthy beard, then the scholars say you don't have to wash the entire thing. You just do masa and you do a sunnah is khilal. Khilal is between the sunnah. So for example, a beard like mine, you'll do the whole face and you'll do this. And then here, all you have to do is just go like this. If you miss some part out, it's okay. As long as the majority is not missed out, and then you just come over like this. So that's enough for a beard like mine. But if a person had a thin beard, then you'd have to wash the whole thing like this. So that's in terms of the face. Any questions regarding the face? Just the face. Just as my questions regarding eyeliner and all these things. Makeup. Right, moving on to the next fard. Next fard is the arms. Arms have to be including and past the elbow. So it's not like if a person, many times people make wudu and they just put their sleeves here. That's not going to cut it because you're missing out a lot. So you have to make sure we pull it back and we do the arms, including the elbow. And sometimes this area can get left out because of how tight sometimes the skin is. So you have to make sure we do that. Oh, one further I missed out according to Imam Malik and his madhab is dalq. Dalq means to rub. Sometimes we just pour water and we do this. Imam Malik said, no, you have to rub. You have to make sure we do this. So that's also something for us to bear in mind. So anyways, so the arms, including the elbows, and we have to do the hands, we have to go between the fingers. The only point of notice is here is that if a person has a tight ring, then you actually have to move it. If it's a loose ring, it's okay, water will go underneath. If it's a tight ring, you kind of wash around it, move it forward, wash underneath, and then you can bring it back. So that's important in terms of arms. The next, any questions regarding arms?
How do you put the water like this and bring it down, or do you wash it under the?
Both are okay. I'm going to speak about when I do the practical. What's important is we use less water. So when we use less water, the right way would be to put water in your arm, do it, and then turn the tap off. Because if you're going to keep the tap on and do it like this, you're wasting a lot more water. Well, not wasting, using. But anything that you use more than necessary is actually waste. If you do it like this, now the water's gone. Now you turn the tap off, and now you have a wet hand, and you're just using the water that's there and wash it. A lot of water. So that's in terms of the arms. Next, in terms of head. So head is the one that has a lot of difference of opinion as well. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, obviously, there's a time where he made masa upon the amama, upon the head, upon the turban. But a lot of scholars say we don't take the literal meaning of that. It means he did it with that and also part of the head. Because there's other hadith where Rasulullah put his hand underneath and did it. So first of all, how much of the head do we have to cover? There's the big difference of opinion. Imam Abu Hanifa and the madhab, they say a quarter. So the amount of the forehead of the head. So you have to just do a quarter. So they say normally a whole hand. As long as you do this, that's the minimum requirement. Yes, obviously, everyone's going to say the whole sunnah is the whole head. But the minimum requirement is just, even if you just touch it with a wet hand. We don't wash the head, we wipe the head. That's very important. So you get the water and you can dust it off kind of, and the extra drops will come off, and then you just do the head. So Imam Hanifa says the minimum is a hand. Imam Malik says the fard, the wajib is isti'ab. Isti'ab means you cover everything. So if you miss out any portion, that masah is not done. So you have to do the whole thing. And then Imam Shafi has a complete other extreme where he says even any part. So even if you just touch here, that's actually, the minimum is okay. But again, we don't go with the minimum, but I'm just explaining our rulings. Even you just touch it, and some say like this or whatever. So that's the three. The difference of opinion is going to come, or the finer detail is regard to women or a person who has long hair. Does the person have long hair? Does he have to get to the roots? Do they have to untie their braids, etc., their knots, plaits? Then no. Most of the scholars say, majority will say, no. If it's long hair, you don't have to untie. Yes, in a ghusl, the woman has to, but in a wudu, no. You just have to do over there, and you kind of wet the hair, and that's enough. So even if a person has any long hair, you wet the head, and you just do whatever's similar to how you do the beard, just like this. Whatever long hair you have, you just do it like that. So that's enough, inshallah, for the head. If a person has some very thick hair gel, which stops the water getting to the hair, then a person has to remove that. So it's very important for us to understand. If it's something that stops the water getting to the hair, you remove that. Lastly, the last fard is feet. Feet is again quite simple. There's nothing much that's difference of opinion. We have to make sure we're including the ankle. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Asbighul wudu, complete and perfect your wudu. Waylul lil aqabi minan nar, destruction be for the ankles from the fire." Rasulullah seen the companions once they were traveling and they were making wudu very quickly because there was less water. So he stopped them and he said, "No, waylul lil aqabi minan nar. Be careful regarding the ankles from the fire." So it's something Rasulullah pointed out. You have to make sure we're doing that. And again, we do khilal of the toes with the small finger, that's the sunnah, khilal of the toes. So we do both feet, inshallah. There's not much difference with regard to the feet. Anyone has any questions regarding the feet? We'll speak about leather socks separately, inshallah. Khilal? Yeah, I mentioned it when they did the arms. So that's the fard. I just covered the fard. Now we'll just completely do a whole demonstration, inshallah. And then we'll finish off, we'll take some questions, and then we'll start our qiyam. So first of all, the adab is, the best adab is that we can stand and make wudu, we can sit and make wudu, no problem, as long as we're not splashing, etc. You start with saying Bismillah, you make the dua, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, and then you can start with miswak. So we have a miswak which you do with the right hand, and you can do ardan, which means right to left rather than tulan. So you do ardan, and you even use it to clean your tongue. You wash your hands, because your hands you're going to use for everything else. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when one of you wakes, إِذَا اسْتَيْقَظَ أَحَدُكُم مِّن نَوْمِهِ فَلَا يَغْمِسْ يَدَهُ فِي الْإِنَاءِ حَتَّى يَغْسِلَهَا. So normally the people would have like a bucket for water, but not a tap. So Rasulullah said, before you put your hands in there, first pour water on your hands, because you don't know where your hands been all night. So we first wash our hands and wash it separately from the rest of the water. Obviously we don't do wudu like that anymore, but still we wash our hands first. Then you've done your miswak, and now you do madmada. Madmada is gargling water in 3 times And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said you should actually emphasize it, so get down to the throat, do the true inside of the cheeks, and if you don't have a miswak, use your finger as well. So this all comes under madmada. This is from the sunnah. So even you should go gargle right down to the back of the throat when you're not fasting. So when you're not fasting, you can do this. You spit it out every single time. Some scholars say you do with the same water, you put it in your mouth and you put it in your nose as well. That's also okay. So you do madmada 3 times, then istinshaq is now the nose. So put water in with the right hand, use the small finger of the left hand to go in, and then you can blow out. This is there from the top of the bridge as well. You blow out 3 times. So water in, use the small finger both, and then blow out 3 times. So that's how we clean the nose. Also the side of the nose and the small bridges we should try to clean. Then the face I've already mentioned. After the face we do the arms with the khilal at this time. Some people, I don't know why in our old books, the textbooks, the khilal used to be mentioned. So between the fingers used to be mentioned at a different place. I think somewhere after masa.
Yeah.
Right? And this is a common mistake.
When I was taught, like you have to do this,
and then you come.
then you have to come back from here, and then you have to do this.
I'm going to come to that. So this is another common mistake. Alhamdulillah, we're approaching a common mistake. So the first common mistake is that the khilal, I mean, there's no set place for the khilal, but what makes a lot more sense, and the scholars now have agreed upon this, and we read from that time actually. So you, with the arm, so you get the water and you bring it down here, and you do the arm, and then you just do the khilal with it. And then again, fresh water, and you do it again, and then the khilal, and fresh water 3rd time, same on the left. And then you do the hair. So now here again, we have a common misconception, which again, somehow, for some reason we've learned, that you bring, so we're going to use both hands, which is right. We don't get water like full and do it, no. We just make sure it's wet hands. We go once, and that should be enough. So now we've learned that you bring it back, but you don't bring it back. That doesn't make sense, because now the water on your hands is used water. So you can't use used water for wudu. So if you're going to bring it back, so some scholars say how you do it is you bring it forward with this part of the hand, so the fingers, and then you bring it back with the palms of the hand on the side. So you're covering the top of the head, and then the side, you bring it back. So top of the head, that's if you want. Or else you just use a full hand and just go down, and that's enough. Yes, some scholars say ears are part of the head. So you actually use the same water. So you go back, and then just you just come back like this. So that's okay, because it's counted as one part, one body part. And we use the index finger to do the inner side of the ear, and then we just use the thumb for the back of the ear, and this is again from the sunnah. So that's head, and that's ears. The next thing is masah al-raqaba. So masa on the neck. So a lot of us have learned that you have to do masa on the neck. Actually, this could be an innovation. If you separately do masa on the neck, this is not part of wudu. The only time we can do masa on the neck is if it's part of the head. So you bring the hands all the way back, get the neck, and bring it back. So we bring it down, do it part of the neck, and bring it back, because it's not actual mentioned separately. And what's definitely not mentioned is masa of the neck. Some people will come round and do this. So no, that's not part of it. If anything, you're going to hit the neck is only going to be when you're doing khilal like this. If you bring in khilal, that's okay. That shouldn't be an issue. Exaggerating any portion of the wudu is okay, in the sense that you just want to be more clean, so that's no problem. But to specifically come and do the neck and act as though it's a part of wudu, this could be innovation. So now when we've done the head, and we've done the ears, and we've done the neck included in the head, then we come to the feet. And the feet, you can put the water, or you pour the water, and then you let it drop downwards, and then you can wash either from the bottom up or from the top down, and you use a little finger to go in between the toes, and you have to make sure, especially this part on the outer side underneath the ankle could be forgotten, so you try to rub that, inshallah. So that's in terms of the feet, and then you do the left. In all things we start with the right and you do the left. And then you finish with Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Allahumma ja'alni min at-tawwabin wa ja'alni min al-mutahhirin, and you can point to the sky and you can smile. This is all from the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would make wudu from 1 mud. 1 mud is half a liter of water. So I don't know if you can, so just so we can understand how much half a liter is, I used to have a mud. So Rasulullah would have a instrument where he would keep a container where he'd keep the water. And he taught the Sahaba how to make it from the mud. Sahaba taught their students, and it passed down until my teacher taught me. And then they even have the same container. And they say, this is what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did it in, and they show it. So alhamdulillah, we also have that thing. So it's a very small amount. Like if one of you were to look at, try it tomorrow inshallah, just get half a liter of water and try to make wudu. And Rasulullah would use so less water, it's sunnah to drink the leftover remaining water of wudu. Meaning, not water you've used, water that's left even in that half a liter. So imagine how less Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would waste. So let's just try it once inshallah tomorrow, and come back and tell me the results inshallah regarding how much water we can use inshallah. So I think that's covered. Any questions inshallah?
So the question is about you are at work, so you're wearing socks. You're not able to remove the socks.
Right. So in terms of socks, okay, this is just the last. I'm just going to finish with this point, inshallah. Or else we can go into a lot of details. But this is very important. So in terms of mas al khuffain or jawrabayn. So masa, wiping upon the socks, leather socks generally, instead of wudu. So also in the Quran, Allah Ta'ala mentions that you should wash the feet. The Shia, they wipe the feet. So this is wrong as well. Just for us to remember that. You have to wash the feet. But then in the hadith, we have more than 70 hadith where Rasulullah said, you can wipe upon socks. Wipe upon socks. That's why Imam Hanifa says as well, I didn't accept it because it's something that goes against the Quran. The Quran is saying wash your feet and suddenly leather socks. So he said, I was very careful in accepting it until it became more clearer to me than the rays of the sun. So when it became so clear, so many Sahaba were saying it and their students, and we have so many hadiths, then I could accept it. But to go against the Quran, Imam Hanifa was very strict in this. Even sometimes a strong hadith, if it's going against the Quran, he would say, we still can't take it because of what the Quran is saying. But now when he said so many Sahaba saying it, he had to accept it. And it became actually one of the signs of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah to accept it. Because those that are not Sunni, they actually don't accept it. Anyway, so now leather socks or socks, which ones can we make masa upon? First of all, if you have leather socks, and Yusuf, I've told you these conditions, right? 3 days you can walk on them, and there should be no rips, no tears. We learn all this. So, and then when we're doing masa, we just have to use 3 fingers or 4 fingers, a whole hand, but the minimum is 3, and you just wipe the top. So you don't have to wipe the bottom, there's no washing, no putting it under the sink. Now the question comes regarding which socks can we wipe upon? So previously, a lot of scholars were very strict. It has to be leather, something completely waterproof. Something you can put under the sink, no water is going to go through. But recently, and not recently, it's always been, but now even a lot of scholars who are staunch on one side, they've actually come to an understanding that no, it could mean thick socks. So socks that are thick, and even if they're not completely waterproof, meaning after a while water is going to go through, but that's no issue because the socks at the time of Rasulullah, not all were thick leather, not all were like this, not all were waterproof material in this sense. They were just thick socks. So the scholars have said now the classification we'll make is as long as they're not these very thin ankle socks ones. First of all, it has to cover your ankles. So ankle socks don't count anyway. But any very thin socks, the ones, the kind that, if you stretch it slightly, you see your skin. So them, there we go, like them. So not like them. So we can't make on them, on something I think the brother has, that's quite thick. So something like that, you could make masa on. So that's the difference. So if it's thick socks, make sure you're wearing thick socks. Then on them we can make masa on. So that's the difference. So that's something we might have learned. A lot of us may have thought we just do it on leather. Even I was of the opinion 2 years ago. And then that's why I didn't used to play behind a certain mindset of people because they would make masa on anything. Like whatever socks, just make it. Now I still be careful, but I say if they have thick socks, then we accept it and we understand that it's okay. Then the ruling of masa upon shoes, that's a bit different. Like if a person wants to, they have shoes on and now they just want to wipe on the shoes. Then we say in this, if you can't take off the shoes, it's much better for you that you take it off. Yes, if you have a very dire need or there's some situation where haraj and dharura, where there's a need, necessity, then at that time, Allah Ta'ala will be understands and Islam has given us this principle, that's fine. When we know there's a need, then we make the decision and that's okay. But that's not the same as leather socks in that sense. The leather socks is something we're allowed. And then just the last ruling regarding leather socks or any kind of thick socks, we can wear them for 24 hours from the time you break wudu. So you make wudu, you put them on, and then you don't wipe them. And then you carry on for 6 hours, 10 hours of your day, then you break wudu, your 24 hours start from then. This is a common misconception again. A lot of people think the time starts from when you put the socks on, no. Or the time even starts from when you make wudu, no. A person can make wudu, normal wudu with the feet, 5 hours later you can put the socks on, it's okay. And still your time hasn't started, it'll start when you break wudu after the socks are on. So it's just something again for us too. For example, you can have your socks with you all the time, just when you're about to feel like you're going to break wudu, you put them on and then you break wudu, that's okay. And your 24 hours start from then. But if you break wudu before putting them on, then no, then that's not okay. And then if you're traveling, then it works as 72 hours. And the timing is based upon your start. Meaning, if you started putting your socks on whilst traveling, it works 72 hours even if you land. Meaning if you come home basically, it'll still be 72 hours. And on the other hand, if you put the socks on from home, then it'll only be 24 hours even if you start traveling. Whereas now if you take them off while traveling and then you put them back on, then you'll start 72 hours again. So these are just some, inshallah, some details regarding leather socks. I think we went a bit deep at the end, but we covered the main things, inshallah. I hope that's...
Masa on the boots, like, those big boots that you have, work boots. Their leather was approved.
In the hadith, we don't really get masa al na'layn. Na'layn is now sandals and things. So that's why we say when there's a need, that's a different issue. It's very difficult for you to take them off and whatever's happening. But generally, no, we should try to take them off.
There's a number of points. You mentioned three, but you didn't mention three on the feet and things like this. Is that number?
No, yeah, sorry. Yes, very important. From the adab, there's a whole list of adab and sunan regarding wudu. From them is we don't waste water, we don't talk about worldly things whilst making wudu, we try to face the qibla and all these kind of things. From them is that we try to wash each part 3 times. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever makes wudu and washes once, then he gets 1 reward, I believe. Whoever makes wudu and washes twice, then I don't want to make up the virtue, then this is the nurun ala nur, this is light upon light. And whoever makes wudu and washes 3 times, then this is the wudu of me and the previous nations. So you're copying Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the previous prophets, not the previous nation, the previous prophets. Wudu'i wa wudu al-anbiya'i min qabli. So that's why, no, 3 is definitely something. Only time we don't do 3, some scholars say, is the masa. Because masa doesn't have times 3. So masa, we keep that as 1. Everything else we do 3. Okay? Alhamdulillah. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Inshallah, we'll have a not so long qiyam today. We'll pray some.